I created this video because I really believe in the message that I'm about to share with you, and I truly believe that it's life-changing. I believe one of the key areas that we as a society has failed each other, and that is preparing for traumatic events. Life has shown us time and time again that three things will occur to you. If you're a human being and you're doing life, three things will occur to you, and that's suffering, loss, and uncertainty. Those three things will happen to you, regardless of what faith you believe, regardless of where you live, your background, your family, your racial makeup, your ethnicity. It doesn't matter your financial, socioeconomic status. It doesn't matter. Regardless of who you are, uncertainty, loss, and suffering will happen to you. But the thing is, the way in which our systems, especially particularly in the Western world, the way our systems are set up now is very reactive, therapeutically speaking. And what I mean by that is that typically a traumatic event occurs, right? Someone passes away, you lose your job, there's a death of a loved one, you face rejection, your partner, your spouse, whomever walks out, whatever the case may be, right? You face the traumatic event and then you go to seek services. Whether it's therapy or grief counseling, you go to seek those services, right? But what happens is in between the time, some of us become overwhelmed with the pain of the loss or the tragedy or the traumatic event. And with that pain, it brings a host of other emotions with it, such as anger, depression, resentment, and so on and so forth, right? But I believe that we can prepare in such a way for traumatic events that we are not overwhelmed with these emotions. Now, that doesn't mean that we're walking around gloom and doom, like, oh my God, something's going to happen to me, someone I love, is going to get diagnosed with some terminal disease. It doesn't mean that at all. What it does mean that we have all of the tools and techniques that we need at our disposal so that when that event comes, we're not moved by it, that we are on solid ground, right? And so we are not overwhelmed. We are not consumed by the traumatic event. And so I want to share with you several tips for these traumatic. Tip or tool, I should say, is acceptance. I think we have to begin to wrap our mind as a society around the fact that traumatic events will occur. It's just a part of life. I often hear people say to me, why did this happen to me? Or people will say, if God is real, why does he allow children to face food insecurities? Why does he allow school shootings? Why does he allow all of these things, right? And I honestly do not have an answer for that. But what I do know is that we've seen time and time again that suffering, loss, and uncertainty will occur, right? And so I think we have to wrap our minds around the fact that this is a part of the human condition, right? And so we have to just accept it. If you've heard me speak before, if you read my books, I talk often about the passing of my cousin. And it was around 10 years ago that she passed away. And, when she passed away, she was 44 years old and had two very young school-aged boys and a husband that she left behind. And the weird thing about it was that when my cousin passed away, she died from a disease that she wasn't really supposed to have. she didn't meet the profile or, the descriptions of those who typically get this type of disease. Like the disease that she had typically occurs to white men that are age 55 years old or above. They were heavy smokers. They worked on the railroad for quite a while. And my cousin didn't fit any of that. She was a Black woman and she never smoked or whatever the case is. So it was definitely hard for us as a family to wrap our mind around. And so for a while I wrestled with that. I, questioned, and I questioned God, why did this happen? Was there a wrong one? Should we have sought this treatment? Should we have done this? All of the things, right? And it would keep me up at night. And I had to really get to a point and realize that, I had to just accept it. I had to realize that there was no amount of questioning I could do to wrap my mind around it. And maybe I'll never understand fully on this side why that happened to my cousin. But I knew I had to just accept it. And it's like that the prayer, God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change. There was no amount of bargaining or pleading that was going to change the situation. I wasn't going to bring my cousin back. And so, although my heart was aching, I had to learn to make peace with it and make space for the grief. And my heart still aches. As I mentioned, it's been over 10 years and I still think about her. I still wonder, what would she be doing if she were here, and think about our last conversation. But the thing about it is, I'm not overwhelmed by the pain and the grief anymore. I've made peace with it. I've made space for the grief. I know that those feelings, the hurt and pain, they live with me, and I'll face them. I could be at the grocery store and I'll feel, I'll get a little bit emotional or whatever the case is. Grief knows no bounds and no time, right? And it'll just hit you when it hits you. But I've learned to be okay, and when it hits me, I ride with emotions, and then I recover. I get back to life. And it's just our new normal. So in that sense, I think we have to accept that things are going to happen and not wrestle with it. When we do the whole, this shouldn't happen to me, it's not supposed to be this way, right? And I hear this a lot when children pass away, and I'll hear, parents say the parents are supposed to pass away before the children. It's not supposed to be the other way around, right? And I guess because the majority of the time that is how it happens, right? The parents leave before the children do. But the reality of it is, sometimes that's not the case for everybody. Okay? And so I think that that's why we have to enjoy each other as much as we can, so that, if something like that does happen, we're not overwhelmed. We can still move on. But I do believe we have to get to a place where we just accept the fact that tragedy, loss, suffering, and uncertainty is just par for the course. I also believe we need to look at our attachments and the things in life that we attach ourselves to, and why we are attached to those things in that way. Because, especially when we suffer a loss, right? We all know we're going to be attached to our families. That's just a given. But when we suffer a loss, such as we lose a position, we lose a job, and all of those things, sometimes we're hurt, deeply, deeply hurt by those, when we lose those things, because we've attached ourselves to those things. And it can be unhealthy when we've attached ourselves to these things, because sometimes we wrap our identity up in these things. So we lose the job, we lose the title, or whatever the case is. It's bigger than just the job or the title. It's because, that job or that title showed the world that we were valuable. Our worth was tied into that, and we can't do that. We have to really learn to let go of our attachment to things, because things and humans, they are flawed. Everything around us is flawed, even people. And so removing our attachments as well as our expectations of things, it really helps us. It really helps us to cope. And when those things fail us, we're not overwhelmed by it. I can remember when I was in a group with women, and I really thought these women were my people, right? And because they were Christians, and we were all on the same path. And then things started to unravel within the group, and I learned the hard way that they really weren't my people, and I was so hurt and I was so devastated. But I had to really realize that I had put them on a pedestal because, they wore the title of Christian. And so when things happened, I was so shocked. I was caught off guard, because I was like, they're Christian. It's not supposed to be that way. They're not supposed to act this way. We're supposed to do X, Y, Z. And the thing about it is, regardless of who you are, or what title people wear, or what they affiliate themselves with, people are people. We're all human. We're all flawed. Even your leaders, we're all flawed. And because we're humans, because we're flawed, we're going to make mistakes. And unfortunately, sometimes those mistakes hurt other people. So I really think we have to examine our attachments to things. And I'm saying this as a person who gets attached to people and things. I love the home that my husband and I live in, and our children. And sometimes we'll be driving out, and he'll look at a house and he'll say, "Oh, I want to buy this house someday." And I can't think of moving from our home because I love it so much, right? And so that goes to show I have an attachment. And so, I really have to do the work to evaluate why I'm attached to this, and how to get myself unattached, so that, if the house ever fails me, and it will, I'm not overwhelmed by it. You will hear me say over and over again, we were put on this planet to love. We were made to love. Thank you, John Legend, for reinforcing that. But I really do believe that. I believe we are our best selves when we show up as love, when we're loving on people, and we are receiving love as well, right? And so a part of that is being in community. I firmly believe that having our community, having what I call a care team in place, is so essential, because that care team are the people that are going to be there when the rubber meets the road, when things get tough, when life really happens, and the bad things occur. You need your team. You need your people that will love on you, that will help you get through it, that will sit with you in the pain and do the small things to cheer you up, right? And so this is why I firmly believe we have to show up emotionally whole. We have to heal our wounds so that we can be in, relationship with other people. I'm a girl from South Carolina, and one of the things that they do in my small town, I don't know if they do this in other cultures in other parts of the country, but one of the things they do in our town is when someone dies, someone that we love dies, People that knew that person will show up and they'll bring food just to lighten the load of the family, and they'll come and they'll sit with you, right? You'll have people that will escort you to the funeral home to help you, make the arrangements. People will drive you around. They will come and clean your home. They will do all the things that you sometimes can't do while you're in that moment of pain. And that, my friends, is the essence of community. And that's how we need to show up for each other. And so I firmly believe that we need to find our care team. And a part of finding our care team is looking at what I call the heart moments. The heart moments are those moments that are simple and pure, that bring your heart joy. And I know joy and happiness, those are such cliche terms, right? But those heart moments are those moments that are unplanned, that are small, that your mind may even think are insignificant, but those are the moments that you sit back and laugh at or whatever. And for me, those moments are, when I'm with some friends and someone will say something funny. Nothing big, but it's just something funny. And so later on that night, when I'm laying down, I'll think about that funny moment and I'll laugh. Those are heart moments because they're filling me up. When my daughter says something funny or my son says something funny, that's a heart moment. Those are the moments that fill me up, right? And so when I look at those heart moments, when times get tough, the people that give me the heart moments or that I share the heart moments with, those are the people that I want by my side when times get tough. So look at your heart moments, and that's where you will find your community. The final point I want to point out is a very simple word, and that's hope. We have to have hope. We have to have hope that when times get tough, when we face the uncertainties of life and the suffering, that there is another side to this, that things are going to be okay eventually. And at the time, it may not look like it, right? But we have to have hope within our hearts that things are going to work out. And I will tell you, in my young adult years, my teenage years, they weren't always pleasant. My father was incarcerated, my biological father, for a number of years. And, I ran away. I had sex way too soon. And I suffered low self-esteem. And there were honestly times where I didn't feel like that I should continue on, that I didn't feel that there was a reason for me to still be here, that I felt that everyone else would be better off if I was no longer on the planet. But somehow I kept on going. And here I am today living my best life. I have a husband whom I'm in love with. I have 2 children. I don't have any worries. And I'm not saying this to brag to you, but I'm saying that is truly hope, because if I had have given up, I would not have been able to see the life that I am living now. And here I am able to use my pain and my shame to help you out today. And that is truly hope. That is truly the audacity of hope. And so we have to hold on to that hope, that whatever you're going through, I don't care what it is, whatever the pain, whatever the darkness, please hear me now. It's going to be okay. You're going to get through it. And you may even see some of those dark moments as a gift. I can recall once I suffered a loss. I lost a job that I really, really loved. I really, really valued. I had made great friends at the job. I was earning good money. And I was here in the Washington, D.C. area, miles away from family. I was about to lose my apartment. But that time, that I got to spend by myself, soul searching when I didn't have a job, has become, looking back, one of the pivotal points in my life, because I really got to understand who I was, and I really got to build a relationship with Jesus through that. So I'm sharing all of that to say to you today that it's going to be okay. And just as right now I'm sharing this with you, and I look back on that moment when I suffered the loss from my job, I wouldn't trade that time for the world. If I had to do it over again, I'd hope that that same situation would happen, because I am here because of it. I am the woman that I am today because of that loss. It shaped me, it changed me for the better, and I'm able to help others because of that. So again, that I hope that this is helpful to you, and please understand, you will get through it. You will make it to see another day.